to give you a little bit of an idea of how I've structured my training over, I suppose it's been like around a kind of 18 to 20 week period. For phase one for me, so let's call that 6 week period, it was all about just building up the distance, building up the getting my body used to running more frequently, and also of course if I'm bumping up the distance, then I'm going to be bumping up the duration of my runs, so getting my legs just used to covering a little bit more ground. At this stage, I wasn't worried about pace, I wasn't worried about running the distances as fast as I could. I just wanted to just get into a little bit of a routine with it all, rather than kind of just going all guns blazing really, really fast, you know, potentially getting an injury, potentially getting bored stiff and putting me off, whatever. So here was just about getting the miles in, getting the old legs used to covering a little bit more ground, so to speak. So obviously we're past that phase, I'm very much in phase 3 now, but in phase 2, this is when I was like, right, okay, I've bumped up the distance, I've bumped up the frequency of my running, I've kind of gradually, without even really trying, if you like, got a little bit quicker. So now I need to focus on what my pace was. You know, essentially I need to be getting about 6 minute 50 miles pace in order to hit my sub 3 hour goal. So now I have that target in mind, I can start being a bit more savvy with my runs and start giving myself a few targets with my pace over a certain distance, etc, etc. So phase 2 was all about maintaining pace on some of the slightly longer runs, medium to long runs, and just making sure that I can actually do what I've set out to do and maintain pace, which so far I've done. So now in phase 3, I'm trying to build distance at pace. Okay, so for me now the distance is going to start cranking up. You know, like I said, I done 16 the other day, might get an 18 miler in there, might get a 21 miler in there as well. So there's definitely going to be at very least one more kind of like big run, which I plan to do at marathon pace, if anything, maybe a little bit quicker, because I think if I can do maybe 20-21 miles at marathon pace, then I think that'll kind of reassure me that on the day I've got a little bit of wriggle room, if you like, for, you know, the sheer volume of people, maybe a toilet break, whatever it may be, which is highly likely with me. So that's very much where I am at right now, guys, is building up the distance at my pace. So that's how I've just really simply broken it down into 3 phases, and I think that kind of rule could work for most people that are new to running a distance like I am. You know, I have ran in the past, but never at a great distance, never that often, etc, etc. And touch wood, you know, aside from that issue with my back before, which was a reoccurring issue anyway, it was kind of like there before, it just kind of like showed up, I suppose. Maybe it was a bit like, what are you doing with all this running? But touch wood, injuries are all good now, so I'm proper happy. Now the big question is how, I've just missed off an E on structure there, what a pleb. A big thing that I've had in terms of questions is how are you structuring your weight training though around your runs? So it's a really good question, and the truth is my weight training hasn't really changed a huge amount. You know, I've always lifted weights 3 or 4 times a week, and at the moment I'm probably more so towards the 3 times a week. Most of my training sessions of a full body nature, they're still of a full body nature. I've just tweaked things a little bit, maybe prioritising some more high rep work on the lower body, because obviously, you know, I want to try and develop endurance in my lower body as much as I can, whilst maintaining a good little bit of strength as well. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of what a weekly structure might look like for me at this stage, but I want to make it very clear. As you can see, I haven't got like a Monday this, Tuesday that, etc. And I'll tell you for why in a second. So I've put here 1 medium to long run. So that might be anywhere between, you know, I suppose at the minute, 10 to 16 miles. 2, sometimes 3 recovery runs, depending on how I'm feeling. With those, I have no real distance in mind. I just kind of run at a nice steady pace, you know, have a little bit of a flush out if you like, you know, try and get rid of muscle soreness, focus on my breathing, focus on a very relaxed kind of running style. And I actually really do quite like these recovery runs because A, they massively aid my recovery, which obviously the idea of them, but for me I couldn't believe how much so, you know, how good I felt afterwards, how good I felt the next day. So I'm going to keep these up. In fact, once this marathon's over with, I think some nice recovery runs or some kind of recovery-based cardio in between my weight training sessions, I'm going to keep there because they've been phenomenal. So I'm not going to change those. But like I say, for me, this is an opportunity for me to actually enjoy the run a little bit. You know, wherever I am, being in the great outdoors, taking in the scenery, the environment, etc., rather than kind of like focusing on pace, 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 run, 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 you know, putting all sorts of faces. I actually really do quite enjoy those. And I've put 3 times full body weight training sessions a week, which I'm pretty much nailing at the minute. Sometimes it's 2, it just depends on how things go. And I've put 1 times intervals question mark, because that entirely depends on how I'm feeling, how many miles I've covered that week, how energised I feel, maybe if my sleep's been a little bit off whack, which occasionally it is. So there's a question mark there, because it's like, if I do it, great. If I don't, you know, no drama. This is my bread and butter right here. Now, the reason I've not put a concrete structure in place here is because, going back to here and listening to your body, I know with the nature of my business and my workload, etc., it's not going to be that easy for me to commit to doing this super, super rigid plan. There needs to be that element of flexibility. So I just look at this, and if I can fit those in across my week, you know, based on my schedule, then I'm happy. And most weeks I make it work. I just make it work, you know. So like I say, there's no rigid plan. I've just got a general overview of a plan, and I just fit it in accordingly based on how I feel, because there might not even necessarily be any particular order that I follow. I just go by my body's feedback and on how I'm feeling, because sometimes a recovery run turns into more of a fast-paced run because I feel good. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go with this because I feel good, I feel fast. Why not? You know, in the same way that sometimes some of my longer runs end up being maybe a little bit slower than what I planned, because my body is kind of providing feedback, and maybe that's what you prefer to do. So it almost becomes a longer recovery run, if you like.